Hey everyone, I'm Justin Spicer from the Legal Aid Society of Columbus, and I'm here with Megan Sullivan, Director of the Low Income Taxpayer Clinic at the Legal Aid Society of Columbus, Melissa Skilleter, Director of the LITC of Southeastern Ohio Legal Services, and Taylor Wade, a volunteer law clerk with our tax team. Today we're discussing how to respond if the IRS examines your claim for the Earned Income Tax Credit. Feel free to comment below and we will answer whatever questions we can. Taylor?
I got a letter from the IRS about my tax return. They say I need to prove I'm entitled to receive the Earned Income Tax Credit. Why is this happening?
People ask this question a lot. Returns that claim the EITC or the Earned Income Tax Credit are frequently examined by the IRS. Some exams are random. They've just been selected by the IRS computer for no reason at all that can be obviously viewed from the face of the return. Or it could be that someone else has claimed your child, but the IRS will not tell you why your claim was selected or who may have claimed the child if that's what the issue was. There's no real way to know, so you just need to focus on proving why you should be the one to receive the credit as opposed to looking into proving why the others cannot or what exactly is happening with your return.
What do I need to do?
Well, the first thing that you should do is make sure that you're eligible for the EITC. Melissa will talk about it in a little bit, what you need to prove. But if you determine that you weren't eligible, then you can just move on. And I don't think that you need to respond to the notice in most circumstances. But if you were eligible, you're going to want to respond to the notice, sending copies of the requested documents. Use electronic options when possible. The notice you receive may have a QR code that brings you directly to a place in the irs.gov where you can upload the documents for your particular case. There may also be a fax number on the notice. So if there is a fax number, use that over mail. But if neither of those are options, then you're going to want to mail your response to the IRS. Keep a copy of what you send and send those documents via certified mail so you can prove to the IRS that you sent it when you said you did.
What do I need to prove?
Read the letter you received carefully. Sometimes the IRS is asking you to prove that you earned the income that you reported. If that's the case, what you need to do is mail proof of your earnings to the IRS. You can send check stubs or your W-2 if you're an employee, or your profit and loss records if you were self-employed. Most often when we're talking about IRS exams, the IRS is looking at whether or not you had a qualifying child. If this is the issue, then you need to show the following things. You need to show that you were related to the child that you claimed. The IRS is going to look at your legal relationship to the child. They're going to want to know that your child was the right age to be claimed as a qualifying child for the Earned Income Tax Credit. That's generally going to be under 19 or under 24 if they were a full-time student or permanently and totally disabled. They're going to want you to show that the child lived with you for more than half of the year. That you had earned income is the next thing that you're going to be proving to the IRS. And this is going to be wages or self-employment as opposed to investment income or retirement income or other benefits. That your income was higher than any other adult who could have claimed the child. And then finally, if you were married and not filing jointly, you may need to prove that you didn't live with your spouse for the second half of 2021. And that's a special rule for 2021. So if you're thinking about other years, you may need to look more specifically into the requirements there regarding filing separately. In prior years, you needed to be able to either file jointly or head of household. If you want to review the requirements for the Earned Income Tax Credit, you can Google IRS Publication 596, or you can watch our video on EITC eligibility.
How do I do that? What kind of proof do I need to show?
There are lots of ways you can prove what the IRS is asking you to prove. One of the easiest ways is if you received food stamps, Medicaid, or cash benefits from Job and Family Services during the years at issue, you can ask your caseworker for your assistance group information and address history. They could include that in a letter, and there are some printouts that they can provide that will show the IRS your address history for them, which means that you've already proved to them where you lived. You can also get a letter from your child's school, daycare, summer camp, Sunday school, after school care or activities programs confirming your child's address of record and that you were the residential parent for the specific dates at issue. You can get a letter from your child's doctor confirming the address on record for the specific dates too. If you have patient summaries that include your child's address, then those can be helpful, but best is going to be a letter showing the continuous address during the dates that you're trying to prove. You also want to make sure that you get addresses that show your where you lived at various points during the year, because one piece of information showing that you lived somewhere on January 15th isn't going to show that the child lived with you for 6 months. There, you're going to want to show that the child's address was with you on January 15th, March 15th, September 15th. That's going to show a whole span of years or span of months. The IRS has some sample letters that you can use for the school's healthcare providers and childcare providers. And then as a reminder, you're going to want to show your own address too on leases, driver's licenses, benefits programs, pay stubs, bank statements, that kind of thing. So you can show that you and the child were living at the same address. And those sample letters for the IRS can be found by searching earned income tax credit, what to do if we audit your claim, and we will put the link in the chat for where to find those letters specifically.
I don't have what they are asking for. Can I send a notarized letter explaining my situation?
The IRS prefers to have a document from someone who isn't related to you, like a doctor or school, like Megan mentioned, someone who's having ongoing contact with your child, preferably in a professional role. Sometimes those records just aren't available. It can be really challenging to prove where a baby or toddler lived if they don't go to a sitter or daycare, or if their address isn't accurate on their medical records. If you don't have any other proof, or if you don't have all the types of proof that they're asking for, you can write your own statement and get that notarized. It's better than nothing. We would suggest that if you're in that situation, that you also get statements from as many unrelated individuals as you can. So for example, if you have a neighbor who sees you come and go with a child every day, who would be willing to write and sign a statement. If you have a child's babysitter that comes to your home to babysit, a pastor or church youth group leader, even if your church doesn't have formal records, they might be willing to write a letter. Or if there's someone who comes to your house routinely, or somewhere where you go routinely with your child that would have specific knowledge of your child living there. It's helpful for people who come into your home who's been able to see, you know, a bedroom and things that look like a child is living there. But really anybody that sees you on a routine basis caring for the child is someone who might be able to write such a statement for you.
What are problems people run into when submitting documents to the IRS?
Well, they may submit a lot of documents to the IRS, and the IRS won't accept them because it doesn't contain the specific information being requested by the IRS. We see cases come in all the time where the IRS has rejected somebody's submissions, and sometimes it's because it doesn't cover the tax years at issue. For example, a letter from the school that confirms the attendance and address this year, when the year that's being audited is 2015. A lot of times the school just doesn't understand the request, and so you've got to make sure you're really specific. Or if, as I talked about above, the documents don't cover a wide range of dates, if they only have like that, you know, one single date during the year, it doesn't really show the 6 months of residence. Also, people will submit documents that don't actually include address information. You know, medical records such as shot records don't usually include the patient's address, and so it wouldn't really help you prove like your EITC claim. So you're just going to want to make sure that when you're submitting the documents that they're as specific as you can be in terms of like tying the child's address and your address to specific dates during the year that span those at least 6 months.
What happens after I send in these materials?
The IRS will take many months to review the documents that you submit. You're going to have to wait a while to get a response from them. At the end of that process, they'll send a letter. They may send a letter saying that they have not made any changes to your return. That means you were successful, that they accepted your return as you sent it to them. Or you might get a letter requesting more documentation or proposing to deny your claim. That means you were not successful and you're going to need to send them additional information. If in the case where you were not successful, don't give up if you get an initial denial. It's extremely common between the troubles that Megan described that people run into, or sometimes the IRS just doesn't get everything that you sent them the first time, or doesn't look at it, or the person that looked at it just didn't agree with your claim. Many people can be successful in the appeals process who were initially denied, and we see that all the time. So make sure that you respond to any IRS letter that you get with the requested documents. Read that letter carefully. All the pages, they tend to send you a lot of stuff. So you want to look all the way through that, see if you have any appeal rights. If you were denied and you have those appeal rights, follow the instructions and send the things that they're asking to the address that they're asking for, and just be really careful with that. Include with your request include with your response any documents that they requested, and keep copies of what you're sending then, and send also with that resubmission anything that you've already submitted so far. Sometimes they just don't get the right papers where they need to go. This is an especially good time to ask for help from a tax professional. Our clinics work on these cases, and we can help you get that information to the place where it needs to go, hopefully in a format that can help easily demonstrate that you're entitled to the claim.
What if I don't respond or the IRS doesn't agree?
The IRS will send you a notice of deficiency, proposing an amount due, or just to deny the complete refund, giving you a right to file a case in tax court to plead your case. You'll have 90 days from the date on that letter to file the petition, which is the specific form that you need to file with the IRS. There are no extensions to this deadline, no matter what the IRS says, because sometimes you'll talk to somebody, if you're continuing to go through the exam process and exchange documents with the IRS, they'll say, oh, you can not worry about that tax court deadline, always worry about the tax court deadline. And you can find the right forms to send at the United States Tax Court website. If the EITC is denied and the IRS doesn't think you had a good faith belief that you were entitled, they could ban you from claiming the credit for 2 or even 10 years. So it's really important to respond throughout this whole process. But at least at this point, if you get the notice of deficiency, you're going to want to respond, send the petition in. The process once you send that petition in is, if you haven't been to appeals yet, it'll just be sent to an appeals officer where you can go back and forth about whether or not your documents are sufficient. And then it goes to the IRS attorney and moves forward towards trial. But again, another really great point to reach out to a tax professional or a low-income taxpayer clinic to help you. So, because these issues can be super, super overwhelming.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. The video of this session and the others in our tax series are available on our Facebook page. Join us on June 3rd when we talk about accessing the child tax credit and stimulus payments through www.getctc.org. Thanks, everyone.